What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. I hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. Today, we're going to be doing a season preview of the New York Yankees, and at the end of the video, I'll also be giving you my predictions on what to expect for the rest of the American League East, which this year is looking like it's going to be a very competitive division. You have the Tampa Bay Rays, who made it all the way to the World Series last year. You have the Toronto Blue Jays, who had a fantastic offseason so far. You got the Orioles, who are well into their rebuilding phase, and you got the Red Sox with some talent still on their roster as well, so it should be an exciting year. Before we do jump into breaking down the Yankees, just know that I am using Roster Resource on Fangraphs as reference for the lineups, starting rotation, and bullpen. But anyways, let's get started with that Yankees lineup, and boy, is it a good one. And say what you will about these only being good hitters because of the stadium that they play at, but these really are good hitters, and the Yankees have done just a fantastic job of dealing with the injuries, especially in their lineup that they've been dealing with for the past few years, and just finding replacement after replacement that can not only hit the long ball, but also hit for pretty good averages as well. I mean, at the top of that lineup, you have DJ LeMahieu, one of the best average hitters in the American League over the past year or so. Yankees just recently re-signed him. He was getting some attention from the Blue Jays, some other teams as well, looking for middle infielders, and I really don't blame them. Pretty solid defensively, but again, he's a great leadoff hitter. Doesn't necessarily have the highest on base for the type of average that he has, but because he's at Yankee Stadium, his home run numbers have been up, and again, hits for a really good average. At the 2 spot, you got Aaron Judge, obviously a tremendous home run hitter when he stays healthy, and that's really the theme over the course of this Yankees lineup. If he can keep his strikeouts down and find a bit more consistency, I think, than he's been having over the past couple of years. This is, an easy 35-plus 40 type home run hitter. And again, I think that when he lowers his strikeout numbers, if he can keep that on-base percentage up there, I think this potentially, again, is one of the best hitters in the American League. You got Aaron Hicks at the 3 spot, probably one of the more underrated players in this lineup. You talk about the big hitters when you look at guys like Stanton and Judge, but Aaron Hicks is right up there in the power as well. He's another guy who's dealt with injuries over the past several years, but he's a guy who could push 25, 30-plus home runs. And again, a lot of strikeouts in this lineup, and if they can limit the strikeouts, I mean, this is probably one of, if not the best lineups in all of baseball. You got Stanton in the 4 spot, dealt with injuries last year. Really, over the course of the past several years, Stanton has dealt with injuries, and we haven't seen a full season from Stanton in a while now, but a projected 40 home run hitter, according to Fangraphs. He's a guy who's done it before, shown off the power. He's a guy who also can strike out a lot. But obviously fantastic numbers in terms of slugging, and a great guy to have out there in the outfield. At the 5 spot, they have Luke Voit projected at first base. And Luke Voit had just a fantastic breakout year last year. We're talking about a guy who played in 56 out of the 60 games for the Yankees last year, hit 22 home runs, and in a shortened season actually set his career high for home runs with 22. This is a guy who last offseason lost a bunch of weight, came into the season really in the best shape that he's ever played, and it showed. And as a Blue Jays fan, this is what I'm hoping that's going to happen to Vlad Guerrero. We saw it happen in the division as well to Devers when he lost a bunch of weight. And you can see what it does. Allows you to have a lot more control at the plate, can get the numbers up. And even a guy like Vlad Guerrero, his power numbers aren't going to go down because he lost the weight. And I think Luke Voit is just a perfect example of that. Luke Voit is a guy who hasn't stayed healthy in the past few years, but you could see what he can do for the Yankees in a full healthy season. Was right up there in MVP talks. And I think Luke Voit is primed to possibly repeat. I think it's really tough to judge out of the breakout players in the 2020 season of who's actually going to be able to replicate it in the 2021 season, just because we saw it last year in such a small sample size. But if I had to pick out of all of the breakout players in 2020 to be able to replicate those stats, I would probably be picking Luke Voit, and I think the Yankees have a really solid player here who's only 30 years old. At the 6th spot, we got Gleyber Torres. I mean, has the potential to be a top shortstop in the American League. Had a really rough start to last season. His strikeout numbers were high, battled some injuries last year as well, but this is a guy who could be 35 type home run guy, pretty good defensive shortstop, the ability to get right up there in the 280 batting average range, can get on base fairly decent in comparison to the other guys in the Yankees lineup. They just need him to stay healthy and be able to stay consistent, and this is a top shortstop in the American League. We got Clint Frazier, young outfielder for the Yankees, went through a fantastic stretch last season at one point in the year. Still only 26 and a half years old, but a guy that the Yankees, or for the Yankees, has never really been able to break out. I'm curious to see what he'll do in a full season. You got Gio Urshela at third base batting 8, Gary Sanchez catching and playing 9. I mean, two guys who could hit for power. Gary Sanchez, who has had a lot of trouble with his average and doing anything but hitting the long ball. He's a guy who could hit 30 home runs, expect like 25-ish range for him, but he needs to get that average up as well. In terms of the rotation, I mean, this is the biggest question for the Yankees. You're talking about a team who lost Paxton, who lost Happ, and lost Tanaka in terms of the free agency period. And you filled in your rotation with some guys who have a lot of questions around them. Cory Kluber being one of them. Obviously one of the top pitchers in the American League. A few years ago, dealt a ton of injuries, hasn't really been the same since. You got Jameson Taillon coming back from Tommy John surgery. When he's pitched in 2018, he was one of the best pitchers in the National League, but again, you don't know what you're going to be getting from him in terms of how many innings he's actually going to be able to pitch this year. But the rotation, you got Cole, Kluber, Taillon, Montgomery, Domingo German as well. It's a pretty solid rotation if everybody stays healthy. You're looking at a bunch of guys around the 3 to 4 ERA range. Obviously, Cole could end up being better than that, Taillon, if he ends up staying healthy. But I think the Yankees need to add another starter before the start of the season. A 2-type starter. I think you just need to take some pressure off just in case, you should probably be expecting for some injuries. In terms of the bullpen, it's a pretty solid bullpen. You got Chapman, obviously the hard thrower, potential to be one of the best closing pitchers. In all of baseball, you got Zach Britton as your setup man, Chad Green, who had a fantastic year last year. He had a whip around like 0.8 or something like that. He was fantastic last year. Darren O'Day just traded away Adam Ottavino, but I think the Yankees are going to be perfectly fine. This bullpen is very, very deep, and I think that, again, if they add another starter, you put your 5-starter possible guy like Jordan Montgomery into the bullpen, becomes a whole lot deeper. And the Yankees at some point probably will be getting Luis Severino back, but you don't know what you're going to be getting from him either. But I think the Yankees should be just fine in the bullpen as long as they add another starter, and should be just fine in the American League East as well. As for my projections, I mentioned it in past videos. I think the Blue Jays have a fantastic shot to sneak up there. But unless they add another starter before the season, I wouldn't expect them to be above the Yankees. I think the Yankees also could easily, with health, finishing the American League East above the Tampa Bay Rays. So I think my projections would probably be the Yankees finishing 1, Tampa Bay finishing 2, Blue Jays finishing 3, but I do think the Rays and the Blue Jays will both get the 2 wildcard spots in the American League. I expect the Orioles to be a bit better. I still think they're a few pieces away. Need to get Adley Rutschman into the majors, but that's not going to happen this year. But big expectations from them, from a guy like Ryan Mountcastle. And then I don't think the Red Sox have much expectations as well. They have a bunch of issues in their lineup rotation ever since that Mookie Betts got traded away to the Dodgers, and guys like Andrew Benintendi not even close to what they can be in terms of their stats last year. But anyways, guys, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on the New York Yankees and their projections for the 2021 MLB season. I want to hear your thoughts down below. But if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.